Das Thema, was wir mit dem 5. Kamingespräch Corporate Citizenship in Angriff nehmen wollen, ist überschrieben mit dem Titel Corporate Citizenship Outside In.
The theme of tonight is twofold. How do you understand the world outside and bring it into a company? And how does a company express who it is to the world outside? I am a researcher, but I also work in what you academics will know as grounded theory. What do I see? How do I make sense of it and build some theories around it? And it's a constant tension and adjustment between what the world wants, what I have to offer, and how it's shaped. So I want to tell you two stories from real-time work to start our evening. One is with a company called Ben & Jerry's. Two real guys. Ben was a community organizer. Jerry was a social worker. And so they took a course at a university by mail to learn how to make ice cream. And they acquired a gas station and put their first shop in the gas station. The early pints showed them with a hand crank making ice cream. They began to raise some money outside the company by selling stock, just in the state that they were from, Vermont, for $1 a share. They had a very strong principle from Ben's side, which is the business of business is to give back to the community. So his salary was 5 times what the factory workers were paid. That was the first salary ratio. It wasn't that far out of line in the US when they started. It was actually 25 to 1 was the average in 1980. Now, of course, it's 625 to 1. But they also gave 5% of their profits back to charity. Now, they became heroes. 1990, they were named Small Business People of the Year. Commercially, they had what you might call strategic foresight. So what did Ben & Jerry's offer you? An environmentally friendly package, an alternative lifestyle that said, give your money to us and we'll contribute it back to the community. They were fun. You could have Cherry Garcia in honor of the Grateful Dead, later fish food in honor of the bands. They had festivals. This was the kind of the 60s generation coming forth with its products and services. And they had a support group of other companies that would get together every quarter with the Body Shop, Smith & Hawken, the garden tool makers. Paul Hawken was a founder of a tea company called Irwan and so on. They had a new vision, if you will, of what business could be about. And if you read and follow seventh generation Jeffrey Hollander, his argument is that that vision has caught hold and is now part of the mainstream. And of course, who owns Ben & Jerry today? Unilever. And what does Unilever do, the corporation? What do you think of Unilever? What's its business? Manages brands, product brands, mostly, and particularly markets brands. We bought Ben & Jerry's. What a jewel as a brand. Well, North American Ice Cream manufactures wallpaper paste. A couple of cheap ice creams that are terrible. But the margins on those ice cream are huge because it's simply flavored air. Flavored water and air. So I look at what it costs to make a Ben & Jerry's, and I look at what it costs to make of this, and my profit center says, I can't afford that. Now, what does it cost to advertise and promote flavored water? What does it cost to advertise and promote Ben & Jerry's? But that's not my business, that's the marketing guys. I'm the factory, in the factories. So suddenly they start watering down the product. It's not as much calories. So you can have flavored water. It sounds like a win-win to me, doesn't it? Better for you, cheaper to make. And, you know, when we get the average consumer in here who's never had Ben & Jerry's, say, oh, it's fine, it's delicious. And it is, if you've never had Ben & Jerry's. Now, it's a trick Haagen-Dazs has been playing for years. What was interesting was somebody woke up and said, what's this actually doing to ice cream? And they looked at the sales of every product that's been watered down, and people know. So they've sort of put a halt to it. And they're now sort of going back to what is Ben & Jerry's about? It is a Rolls Royce in a cup of ice cream. You know, you get to have a luxury and a treat. Please eat it responsibly, but at one level, that's not what we're about. You know, we're not going to deal with ice cream abuse and fat with this product. So it's again, a complex set of judgments. So this is how I spent my time from 1982 to 92, part-time teaching, part-time working with these two real guys building this business model. And interestingly enough, they developed what they called their triple bottom line principles of product, community or social mission, and economic mission. And then in 1990, had an auditor come in and look at it and said, that's a great idea, you know. It fits very closely with my idea of the triple bottom line, and Ben & Jerry's with John Elkington issued their first social report. And that was that kind of foresight about where we also might be going in business. So this is one story. Now, 1995, I had quite a different call. Cor Herkstrader, who was the head of the Committee of Managing Directors for Royal Dutch Shell, called. And he said, our business is losing its vitality. Finally, Mark Moody Stewart gets up and he says, the problem that we're having in our business is the same problem we're having with the Brent Spar. We're not listening to the world. We don't understand what people want. We have a narrow technical perspective on what we're doing here at Shell, and we're arrogant. It spent a year in dialogue, internally and more importantly, externally, talking to investors, campaigners, customers, investors. And the campaign was labeled, Tell Shell. Tell us what your issues are. Tell us what your perspectives on us are. And so on. And that input was used to, if you will, redefine what Shell is, or what Shell could be. And you saw it within a couple of years in the People, Planet, and Prosperity reports. You saw it in repeated stakeholder engagement. They had a series of workshops inside around core purpose that was redefining the core purpose of Shell, and so on. So that's the outside-in approach. Inside out, Ben & Jerry's, here's who we are. We can anticipate and see where the trends are. Shell, outside in, but we have to acknowledge that we're not listening and begin to listen. What I wanted to do tonight was to talk a little bit about this process of listening and responding. But in order to facilitate it, I'll ask you to, for just a moment, think about Shell and what you would tell Shell. So I have some cards here. I'm going to ask you to talk, first of all, with a group right around you. So I'm going to start with this group right here, you 5. Okay? You get the green card. So this is green money. So this is not 1996 at Shell, this is 2010 at Shell. What are your issues as an investor with Shell? You here, and the ones behind, just very quickly. You're a customer of Shell. Here's the radical community. You're campaigners. You 6. Could be green, could be anything. What does the civil society have to tell Shell? Government? So what do you want to tell Shell? So the aim here is to identify the issues. Just a very simple question. Which stakeholder group gets talk first?
Investors. Employees from this side.
So, now why would the employees get to talk first?
Because no company without employees.
And the investor, yeah, there's no money from investors. So what's more important, money or people?
People.
Where are the customers?
I was going to say, but in that case, the customers are important because if you don't have any customers buying the product, you don't need employees producing it.
But without employees, you're not going to have anything to buy.
But there wouldn't be a market without customers.
Now, are you speaking as a customer or as a consumer advocate?
As a customer.
So this is a very fundamental question that when you start with what issues, who do you listen to and what issues matter? If your priority is, well, of course, the investors, they own the company. I'm just, as an executive, an agent of them. They're the real boss. I've already sort of set a particular trajectory of how I will think about things and how I will understand the world. Very few executives subscribe to that view. I know that's what we teach in the business school. I know that's the methodology of what business is about. But people who run businesses understand if I don't have my employees with me, and I'm not with them, and I don't have my customers, and I hand at least these are customers, and yes, I have to listen to the campaigners, but just as you're going to advocate for my consumers, you're going to tell me the real issue here is some other environmental concern or this and that. I have to hear all of this. And that's what becomes intriguing is you move from simply a shareholder world to a stakeholder world. Now, that's at one hand the theory. On the other hand, it's a very practical matter because if we're all interconnected, and ultimately the fortunes of our company and my personal fortune is dependent on making this work. Now, what the transformation is a question of rule number one, how many stakeholders do we listen to? And in what order? As an investor relation person, I talk to you. As an HR person, I talk to you. As a marketer, I talk to you. As a government affairs person, I talk to you. As a person that nobody else has a job for, maybe a public relations person, I talk to you. And guess what? We five never talk. We five never talk. I got my own budget, I got my own people. And by the way, the same conflicts that you're having, we'll mirror those inside our firm. So it's better that we don't talk and keep it a secret. What I know is very clear is we do not know how to work across sectors. There's no school for that. There's no journal of that. Maybe the Stanford Innovation Review does a little bit. There's no training in that.
Oh, you described quite a few of jobs we now could think of to design. Yeah, it really. If I may quote Phil Mirvis at the end, dealing with value co-creation and stakeholder relations, I like that very much. The decisive question, as Phil Mirvis put it, how do we learn together? How do we innovate together despite the fact that occasionally we hate each other? This is the way we have to go. Thank you very much, Phil.